guess my question is like, you guys all went down that path of, I guess you decided you wanted to be a performer, but like when you went into these schools and applying to be a performer, and this is why like why we're having this discussion is like, what are they telling you at school? Like, what are they saying you will be doing when you get out of a conservatory? Like for me, it's different, right? I went to the Steinhardt School of, at NYU. I got a music business degree because I was very clear cut. Like my role when I graduated was to be working in the record company, right? And we all learned every facet of what a record, how a record is made, right? So you can be an A&R, you can be a producer, you can do music tech, but then there's also a very specific music tech department where you can be a sound engineer, a producer, a recording engineer, right? For my job, it's like I can be working in marketing, publicity, all those stuff that we got involved with, even like music law, like entertainment law. We had a course about that. And so you can continue to pursue that if you want to go down that path. I could have gone and become a lawyer and focus on entertainment law, right? So for me, I just felt like that had so much more options for me as I was, thinking ahead. But that was also because first and foremost, I just did not want to be a performer, to be on that stage. So, when you guys apply, like, I'm curious because I didn't go to the straightforward conservatory. It was like, what were they telling you? What are they saying to you? How are they preparing you when you leave the school? And what are the options that they say you have if, let's say, you don't make it as a professional musician? And what would you like, Nick? You want to play so much. What do you envision yourself as a performer? Like, what would that mean when it says, like, what does it mean that you are a successful performer? Obviously, success is defined very differently with everybody.
Yeah, of course. I feel like for me, like the goal is producing and participating in as many local concerts as possible, right? I mean, a lot of my concerts are based in the Polish community in New York and New Jersey, and somewhat a little bit beyond. But I mean, like for example, I co-direct 2 different choirs, actually now 3. Because they just asked me to direct them because another director actually just left. And I find myself quite happy performing with all of these different choirs, and then at times performing as a soloist and at times performing as a vocalist, right? And of course, it's not like, it's not Carnegie Hall every time, right? It's not, performing as a soloist, giving a 2-hour program every other night, right, at the biggest halls. But success can be measured in different ways based on the person, right? So the thing is, like, for example, I'll give an example. I have a violinist friend from Canada, not Annie, that comes into town. I mean, Annie's my friend too, don't worry, but but that comes into New York sporadically throughout the year, and he just came by like last week, and he just called me and he's like, Nick, let's put on a concert. I have a really good idea. And blah 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 blah. We're gonna play at this church. We're gonna play at this church in 1 month. So let's try to organize a bunch of performers and do it. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so in like 3 weeks, we had a bunch of different local groups and local performers who just wanted to perform. And then based off of that, we had 2 concerts and got money for it too, right? So I'm not to say that everything has to be for big money, but I'm just saying one of the concerts had like 600 people inside the church, and the amount of congratulations that I got and so like positive energy that was there makes it so gratifying, to even be on that stage for one piece, let alone since I was playing with almost the entire program, because almost every single person needed a pianist, right? I feel like for me, that is very satisfying on its own, right? And then of course, playing at these local concerts not being my only concerts, you know what I mean? Like that combined with some other things, like for example, I'm giving a solo recital in Buffalo, New York at the end of May. No, in the middle of May, doesn't matter. But just kind of all these different things for me, it's like I have enough going on that it still motivates me to keep playing, right? If I didn't have concerts, then I would feel like I would be depressed sitting at the piano, right? I would be sitting there like back before I went to my undergrad, and I would be sitting there for 5 to 7 hours practicing, up to the point where my mother would tell me to go to sleep because I was playing at like 4 a.m. And like I can't imagine doing that right now if I didn't have any performances, right?
Mhm.
Of course, I don't do that now. That's crazy. But I'm just saying. I feel like the goal is to organize performances for yourself if you really want to keep going, even on a local scale. Depending on the what you're looking for, of course. But for me, I think that's plenty. I'm very happy with.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I feel like later on because I did open it with Emma and other people, I do feel like you're eventually like you're curating music and also like you're forming like a sort of community. That feeling feels really good, like instead of you just like performing solo, like because eventually like it's a platform for everyone to like communicate, and then you're like the one who's like making all it happen. And I think that's more than just like playing a good concert. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I feel a similar way, although I think most of my work like is like online stuff. Like my motivation is playing for videos and content to share with people online. So like people all across the world can see. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd probably also not play as much.
So I guess so I want to go back to my question, like when you guys were in school, right? Like what were they telling you what that real world looks like after you graduate? Or were they only just focused on making sure like you are technically and musically at the top of your game? I'm just so curious. What are they, what are they telling you at school? And and after that I'll tell you why I'm asking this question.
Well, I don't think they really do. Well, that's from my experience. I don't think they really do. They kind of just like make sure teaching you like how to play Bach, like how to play this. It's kind of like an elephant in the room, especially like when you first get into school, like freshman year. Like they don't tell you, because that's something that I feel like I found out myself when I was like probably like in grad school. I was like, okay, this is like probably till the end of my education that I have to figure out what I'm gonna do, how I'm gonna make money. But like I don't think they really tell you.
And do you feel like the same?
No. I disagree.
Other like I mean, like we don't need to name names, but obviously there's like tons of conservatories out there. And do you feel like your friends from other conservatories are sort of like that went for performance? Okay, like we're not talking like doing anything else like conducting or just like performance. Do you feel that they have the same sort of experience where they came from, where they went to school?
Can I interject? I just want to go back to her point for a second, to Zan's point, if that's okay. I don't agree with you. I think that they like maybe it was just some of the classes that I took. Some professors were very, very real about what is going to happen. Like, for example, I had a music history teacher. I'm not going to name this person, but I thought that she was fantastic. When it comes from a music history perspective, I wouldn't say that I learned quite a lot about music history, but the thing is, she was very real about curating concerts and different things because she felt that that was the necessary thing to teach, right? We had an entrepreneurship class, which I was actually happy to have quite a good teacher who was also very real. He kept telling us like, man, I got out of school, I didn't know what I was gonna do, And so my friends and I bought a bar, and I was like, what the hell? Like, is that, the first thing that comes to mind when you go to music school? Meaning, of course, there are a bunch of teachers who were like kind of living on, cloud nine or La La Land. They didn't tell you anything, They were like, oh yeah, just play well and you'll find your way, right? And then other teachers that, were like, well, don't put all your eggs in this basket. Like, maybe you should look into this. Maybe you should look into that. Like, my teacher herself, like, she was like, hey, Nick, maybe you should consider applying to this entrepreneurship degree. I feel like you could be good at it. Or, hey, Nick, maybe you should do this. You should do that. And that, I hope that's not her way of telling me, hey, Nick, you suck at piano. But, like, I still continue my master's in piano performance after that. So I don't think it's that. But, I feel like there are some teachers who kind of point you in the right direction, right? I feel like others are less
in my opinion,
in our school.
Yeah, I've seen that, but I still don't feel like there's enough like actual like guidance to point you in the right direction. Like,
I guess there's no like
or like
actual guidance.
Yeah,
right. Because just, like, I would just assume like every year how many students are graduating, and do all these teachers expect their kids just to be successful and have a successful touring career? because once they get to my point, like, okay, the reason why I'm asking this is because when I was working at Concert Artist Guild, it's one of the oldest institutions, competition institutions in New York, in America, and they had a great model. And it started really as a bunch of socialite ladies in New York City who loved classical music, and they would hold an annual competition every year. And after each competition, they would give them a debut recital at Carnegie Hall, invite all the important press, which at that time was a lot. And once they get a raving review, their career took off. But 20 years in, they realized, well, media is getting less, and there's much, much more people in the marketplace than it used to be 20, 30 years when they started it. So that's when they created the management division, which when you win the competition, you not just win cash prize, but you also win a manager and an agent that would really help nurture and develop your career. So another similar institution is Young Concert Artists. They're just maybe a year or two right after CAG. So most of these kids are just graduating or still in school. And they come to us completely ignorant of what the real world is like, right? And even when they come to us, because of our name, they're able to have concerts around the country. But the thing is, because it's supposed to be for young artists, after a certain point, we have to roll them off our roster because they're no longer young, right? Like after 30, you're no longer considered a young artist. You need to roll off. And some have a successful career following that. Some of them don't. And then we, of course, did a lot of hand-holding. So we almost became that proper training ground to say, you've got the talent, but it takes more than just talent to be successful. So I do think that that's where my observation from sitting on the other side in the real world as an agent manager, where I feel not just in the US, I think conservatories in general around the world is not really serving the students to the best of what they can be doing. Right? Like out of a studio, you've got 20 students. How many of them are you going to really say, you as a teacher have the responsibility to say, you can get a performance degree, but I don't think you are suited to be performing as a professional musician touring around, like that, what we consider a successful career. Like you need to give them a really like reality check and just say, where are you? Not to say you're not good, but good is not past a certain level. No one is going to really understand whether you're good or not. Right? Like it's like my son, because no one here really plays the piano. He plays and everyone's like, oh my God, he's so good. I was like, no, he's not. Right? But that's because I'm used to hearing what is actually good. But for them, because they've never really heard a pianist like piano playing live, they're like, oh my God, you're so good. Like even the piano tuner, and he was like, because he wanted him to play something after he tuned it, and they were like, oh, you're a professional. I was like, what are you, crazy? Do you know what I'm saying? So this is where I'm just wondering, like, if you had to do it all over again, would you even go to conservatory? A, and B, do you think is even necessary? Is it just better just to get a degree in something else so that you're quote unquote more well-rounded and then still be able to study with great teachers? Because you don't need to be a good pianist. You don't, to me, you don't have to be in a conservatory to be a good pianist, because how good you are is really based on the teacher you have and the commitment that you give to your craft.
True, but a lot of jobs that you could get are based off of the connections that you make. I feel like if I didn't go to Manus, I wouldn't make those connections.
But are you getting the connections because you're getting performance opportunities because of that, or are you getting other opportunities because of that?
Both. If I'm being very real, if I'm on an honest answer, both for sure. Like the thing is, of course, it's what you make of it. I completely agree with what you said, though. You don't have
even
to
for
go
me,
to a
right? Like
to be a good pianist.
So even
You're
for
right.
me, I went to NYU, I got my internship. By my junior year, I had to intern at a record label.
Because I do feel like conservatory, like at my major, like it is like it's a constant competitive vibe going around. Also, like if you're in a studio that's like 16 people, what if you want like extra help from your professor, but like also like other people are just getting 1 hour lesson, and then it's a competitive vibe for sure. But like right now I'm kind of like out of the menace circle, and then I'm at other school, and then I went back, oh, maybe something I want to shoot, maybe something I want to interview, and then they're happy to be, because I'm no longer in that competitive vibe. That's much more open when I'm out of that circle.
Yeah,
I do think like that.
I mean, I find that, like, you know, you were saying that you that someone would rather take performance opportunities for themselves rather than, you know, pass it along to any of their friends. But I, like, for example, I find myself in a lot of positions where I'm not able to take a job, right? And I always send it to my Manus friends, right? Because I feel like we should help each other. I mean,
well, yeah, of course. I mean, I'm not, yeah, like, I think that's the only time where you will become friendly, right? Where you're like, okay, I can't do it, so I will pass it on, and you're being a good colleague and a good friend.
Like I was like, hey Annie, I need a violinist to come play at this random gig, and Annie was like, okay, sure.
Look, I'm not discrediting the network and the tight community that it has, but I think it's also, in general, it fosters these kind of environment is a very competitive environment where that is just the nature of how it is, right? And then when you're all entering the same sort of competition, there's only that one spot for you. Right. And if everybody's trying to enter, like, someone's feeling is definitely going to get hurt if I got in, my friend didn't get in. Right. Like, that is just the nature. That's human nature, regardless of whatever, you know, regardless of what it is. The same thing in acting world. You've got the same 5 students from the same theater school auditioning for that same role. There's only one person that's going to get it. Obviously, these music schools are not going to go away, right? They've been around for, some of them in Europe have been around for centuries. And these are for, you know, and these schools here in the US has been around for decades. And you've got other new ones trying to come up and trying to build a name for themselves. And, you know, I did a quick search, like when I got accepted to Berklee College of Music. When I applied for school back then, and this is like many moons ago, Berklee was just kind of rising up in the scene. Like, it wasn't considered the, you know, it was almost like a boutique school where people knew it was good, but it was like not everyone really heard it. Like, my parents didn't even hear about it. And I got in. And now it's apparently, like, I was doing some search about some of the top schools. They're like ranked in the top 5. And I'm like, how is that even possible that it ranked in the top 5? You know? So it's just really interesting to watch, like, what are these schools doing? And I mean, obviously you guys are all done, and have they changed what they're trying to do for the students now versus when I, you know, went to school, how many years ago it was, you know? So, and maybe there's a new way that, you know, like, I think it really is important for all these students going in. I don't know if it's, you know, like this, I do feel like the school has a responsibility to, as you say, to give a better guidance, not to discourage, but I think to give a better guidance to all the performers, whatever instrument you decide to major in, what that reality looks like.
And I feel like, in my experience, they are like trying to do that, but it's just not there yet. Like, first of all, when I was in undergrad, I was like totally lost. Like, I've had sessions at my private lesson where I'm just like breaking down in front of my professor, like crying, like, I don't know what to do right now. Like, I feel like I'm not doing anything to further my career or anything. But then, like, you know, he tried to comfort me, but like, you know, besides just like, you know, practicing for 8 hours a day and just hoping for the best, there really should be more to be done. Out of all the classes that we took, I only feel like, so performance class for us string players, I guess, was good because it focused on, you know, orchestra auditions, which a lot of people end up doing.
Yeah.
And then we had some I can't say the word, entrepreneurial classes. But at least maybe because of the teacher I had, I didn't feel like I learned much from the class. And even at some point, I think we were supposed to, share stuff about ourselves. And then I shared that, on YouTube, I had like a following. It was just about like 30K at the time. I didn't have my TikTok or anything yet.
Wow.
And then the teacher was like, oh my God, like what? Like, how did you do that? I guess. But it's like, I'm in your class. Shouldn't you tell me how to like market myself better?
Oh boy.
Yeah. So this is exactly what I'm saying, right? Like, I mean, because look, we have these, people, we have these inside jokes. Like we always say people end up being professors because they cannot become professional musicians themselves, so they end up teaching. Obviously that is not, I'm just generalizing, right? But like, I think there's a lot of that stigma that sticks. And I think there needs to be what it is that there needs to be a wider acceptance and a guidance to say that. And this is what I tell everybody that comes through when so many young artists comes and when they ask me to speak or give advice. And I said, look, talent comes in all shapes, size, and forms, right? Just even in just a general larger scale of performance, live performance, successful artist, right? Like you need to first define what is exactly a success to you, right? Like music, I mean, classical music, of course, is in so many ways, it actually travels around the world. Okay, much more so than any other types of music and any types of artists. It's just one of those things, right? Even though it's a very small market share, but from a performance perspective, classical music is much more understood universally than other types of and other forms of music genres. But even artists that says, oh, I want to go and travel and perform in other countries and marketplaces, I said, don't just go back to who you are as an artist first, right? What is it that you're doing? Why are you doing this? Why do you want to be a performer? What is your goal in doing that? And what does it mean to be a successful performer? And I think that is the lacking, like that is something that schools, if you paid all that money to go to a conservatory, I do feel that it is the responsibility of that teacher, of that professor, to give that proper guidance. That success does not mean you need to have a solo career, right? They need to give you guidance saying that, your degree, I tell them, I said, you don't have to be a performer to be in the music business, to be in the live entertainment business, right? You can contribute elsewhere too. And I see so many alumni of the previous organizations that are no longer pursuing a professional concertizing season after they leave us. They've all gone on to either switch to careers, got married and had kids, and taking piano or taking music students privately, or they've ended up having a professor. So I mean, so this is why it's, in a way, it's more than talent that will let you to have a busy concertizing season.